Hey, I'm Drew Holcomb. Welcome to the Bull and Bear podcast.
That's right, guys. You heard it here first.
Live from Nashville.
Yeah, live from Nashville. Well, kind of live.
Yeah. Well,
when you hear it next week.
We are live.
Yeah, we're live now.
Yeah, there you go.
Live now. So I guess we'll just start off. If you just want to give us a little bit about who you are and kind of how you got started in life and to where you are now.
I got started in life 9 months before I was born. My parents got together.
So there was no pelican involved? They didn't drop you off? Or
No.
No,
So I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and I started making music when I was middle school, high school, like any sort of kid with a guitar, learned how to play their favorite songs, and went off to college and started writing my own songs around my senior year, and decided to postpone grad school. I was planning on becoming a history professor, which is much different than what I do now.
Much different.
how was that? How was that received?
That was well received.
Postponing grad school?
Yeah, it was well received because it wasn't going to grad school for history had like a super, great trajectory itself.
It's like you're going to med school or something.
Right. Yeah. I started writing songs and decided to give it a go as a sort of touring musician, and here I am 15 and a half years later and never looked back, honestly, but with a lot of in between there, but that's the soundbite.
The 10-second soundbite there.
Yeah.
Good deal.
So you went to the University of Tennessee, right?
That's right.
And then you met your wife there?
I did.
How did you guys meet there?
We actually met just kind of a classic, pre-game barbecue, tailgate deal. Yeah, nice. It was the night before kind of thing. And we had some mutual friends, and we just met, started talking about music and this and that, and didn't see each other again for like 6 months, and then became really good friends after that for like 5 years. And then I had already graduated, moved on, was a year and a half into my sort of music journey, and our friendship kind of got reignited after a tough breakup for her, and 6 months later we were dating. 6 months later we were married, and that was all 2005 and 6. So yeah, it's been a long time. And Ellie was in the band with me for a long time before.
Cool.
And she that's a whole other long story, but yeah.
Good deal. She's no longer in the band, right? She's got her own solo.
Yeah, she's got her own solo thing. She still sings on a couple songs every record, and then we do a tour typically in February, which is just the two of us, called the You and Me Tour. And we've been doing that now 2 years, and we'll probably keep it going. But it's sort of our way to get back on the road together, since we're not touring together the rest of the year.
Right.
Do you bring does the whole family come on tour?
For that part of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, most of it.
Nice.
Yeah, this year we did 19 shows, and the kids were on maybe 11 of them.
Okay, yeah.
So
how's that? Yeah. What's it like traveling with the whole?
You traveling in
a
camper?
We have 3 kids, tour bus.
Okay.
It's great. I mean, they love it. They sleep better in the tour bus than they do at home. Something about like the darkness. There's no windows in the bunks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they really love it. Every day is to wake up in a new place. It's sort of a new adventure for them.
Yeah.
Every town's got some sort of kids museum or cool park or something for them to do.
Do you remember when the first time they came to the realization, like, oh, my dad's a musician?
It's funny. Like they kind of they grow up around it, so they don't think anything differently about it. I mean, if I had heard my dad on the radio when I was driving around Memphis, my dad was a dentist. I would have been like, "Oh my gosh, my dad's on the radio!"
Right.
Here in Nashville, Lightning 100 station plays us quite a bit, and the Sirius XM station plays Ellie quite a bit, and so our kids are like, "Oh yeah, mom and dad are on the radio, whatever."
Yeah. Well, here we go again.
So we went on tour with Willie Nelson about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Hey, that's awesome.
And my daughter at the time was 4.5, and she said they came on that tour, and about a week before the tour started, she goes, "Dad, I can't wait. I've waited my whole life to meet Willie Nelson." And I was like, "Oh, you've waited your whole life?"
4.5 years.
4.5 years. Yeah, like most people wait their whole life and don't get to meet Willie Nelson.
Yeah. Had you met him many times before that tour?
No, I'd never met him before that tour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
met him the second night of that run.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you grew up listening to Willie Nelson?
I did. I honestly didn't grow I wouldn't. I think my parents had a couple of records, Red-Headed Stranger, a few others, but I didn't really get deep into his work until my late 20s.
I didn't realize who Willie Nelson was. So I watched The Dukes of Hazzard that he's in.
Yeah.
And then I was like, whoa, I love this
Oh,
guy.
the movie or the
He's awesome.
The movie, yeah.
Yeah.
The newer movie.
with Jessica Simpson and
Yeah. Johnny
Well,
Knoxville.
When did that
Johnny
come out?
Knoxville in that.
Yeah, he is.
Oh my gosh.
He's still alive? I'm just
Yeah.
Johnny Knoxville.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. Surprisingly, yeah.
That's right.
But I was like, wow, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
My brother was like, he makes music too. And I was like,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
world was shattered. I was
two
like, whoa.
things. Two things.
Yeah.
That's
What,
awesome.
when did that even come out?
2006, I think.
Oh.
It
Okay.
was a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Dang.
Yeah, right after I got out of college. I remember that. So you must have been sort of young.
Yeah, I was very young. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably like 10?
It was one. Yeah,
Around there?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, it was one of those movies where my brother was like, hey,
You need to
Yeah.
watch this.
yeah, watch this.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I'm the second of four.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
I have an older sister, two younger brothers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you guys all get along really well? Do you fight if you're in close proximity for too long, like every other sibling?
You know, we've had our fights, but so not to go like super intense, but when I was 17, my brother that's in between me and the other brother passed away, and so he was a special needs kid, and so my oldest sister and the youngest brother and I, because of that, we're actually very, very close. I mean, you kind of walk
Yeah.
through something tragic like that, and it ends up making you pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
I can
actually,
imagine that.
we're going to bring that up in a little bit when we were going to talk about your new album.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
Talk about the album.
I listened to that song on the way to work.
Sorry about that.
That'll,
And I just-
that'll break you down.
I just
yeah.
walked into my office, just a mess. I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
nobody
like,
talked
what's
to
Why are
me.
you crying at 8 in the morning?
Something happened on the way?
They're like, oh,
no.
are you all right? I was like, don't look
Not
at me.
really.
Don't
Listen
even
to
look at
it.
me.
Yeah.
I was with a bunch of friends, and they were like, "Hey, we saw you got a new song out today. Should we all listen to it together?" And I was like, "No, this is sort of a listen to it by yourself
Yeah.
for the first time kind
Yeah.
of song."
Yeah. Locked away.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome though. It's a
Thank you.
great song. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, powerful stuff.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it is.
Yeah. But yeah, just take a second to thank you again for doing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, yeah, thank you for coming on the
Yeah,
show.
of
We
course.
appreciate it.
Glad to be on.
Yeah, we were surprised.
Yeah.
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 Like this is awesome.
That's great.
Sweet.
Because every once in a while an idea comes on for a guest, but it's always like,
Yeah.
so I'll be like, we had the editor in chief of GQ,
Oh, cool.
and it was because I was like reading GQ magazine, and I was like,
Yeah.
let's see if this guy
Why
wants
not?
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I was
like, why
listening.
not?
I
Who's
was-
the editor in chief of GQ?
His name's Dylan Jones.
Yeah. It's British GQ.
Yeah.
So
Which
Cool.
I like a lot more.
it's cooler in our book.
Unbiased.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Unbiased opinion.
But yeah, and then I was listening to one of your songs, and I was like,
Might as well ask.
we'll give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
love it.
see what happens. We've sent so many messages, and I'd say the ratio is pretty small, obviously, but there are some people that say yes. So we're gonna keep
That's right, you
shooting the
gotta-
shot.
I always tell young artists, like, when
Yeah.
they're like, what do I do? I give them like a list of things to try. And I'm like, if you can, if you send 20 emails trying to get booked at different venues or whatever, and you hear back from one person, that's a success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that?
really.
How did you go about when you first started out? How did you go about navigating those waters?
It was tricky. I sort of picked 5 or 6 towns or cities where I knew a lot of people personally,
Okay.
and sort of decided to build it that way. So I'd, book a very small venue in Birmingham and tell the 15 people that I knew in Birmingham, like,
Yeah.
please come and
Show up.
everybody bring 4 friends.
Yeah.
And you do that
That's
enough,
cool.
and if one of those friends likes your music, the next time you come through, you got 30 people,
Yeah.
and you tell them to all bring 4 friends, and you got 100 people. And just kind of grew organically from
Organic,
that.
yeah.
But convincing, bar owners and venue owners that you can bring out a crowd is really difficult because they hear that all the time from people.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if somebody sends an email that says, I can bring 400 people, what that means is they can probably actually get about 20 people there.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. They can tell 400, but
They can- yeah,
20 will count.
exactly.
yeah.
So the other way, I would look at the schedule and try to find like artists who are similar to me, and
Yep.
reach out to their managers and say, "Hey, I live in Memphis. I can bring out an extra 40 or 50 people
Mm-hmm.
if you let me do the opening set, or open for the opener for 20 minutes." And I would do that, and then hustle as hard as I could to get people there. And then they would notice that there'd be people there for me, and they might even leave. And they're like, "Oh, this guy's got some real draw,"
Yeah.
So that was sort of the way I went about it the first couple of years.
That's awesome.
I saw on
Go ahead.
one of your early tours, you did around 400 shows. Is that it?
Well, basically the first 7 years, I played over 120 shows a year.
Dang.
So I've never done like 400 straight. I think I would be dead.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, wouldn't make it.
But yeah, we did. I've definitely done close to 2,000 or over 2,000 shows
Wow.
That's great.
in my life. Yeah.
Do you ever get in like moods where you're like, you know what? no, never again. I don't want to. Or take a long break from
I don't know.
touring.
I never get the never again bug, but I get the I need a break bug.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
When does that usually hit?
You know, it has more to do with like traveling is really hard on your health. You know, so like sometimes you, especially if you tour in the winter, it can just you feel like you're sick the whole time and you're just exhausted, and you maybe get a bad night's sleep on the bus, or you have a 4 o'clock wake up call to catch a 6 o'clock flight home, or you know you got to get up at 6 in the morning to go do a radio show at 8, and then you've got to go to the local record store at noon, and then you got to sound check at 3, and then do a meet and greet at 6, and then play the show at 9, and then do a after show meet and greet at 11.
That's not much at all.
And you're just like, I'm done. All I want to do is go to bed.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You ever have anybody crazy at any meet and greets? You ever meet anybody that you're like, whoa?
Maybe get them away.
Yeah, for
Somebody
sure.
help.
And I mean, no,
I'm sure.
most of the time our fans and people that come to our meet and greets are pretty chill and pretty like, you know, the kind of people that are like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, love your music, or like, hey, it's like maybe it's a married couple and they're like, hey, we used your song in our wedding, or you know, I play bass in a band and I was at a wedding playing like your friend here. Yeah. You never know kind of what people's story are. I always think it's interesting if someone paid money to come to a meet and greet, they've got to have some interesting story of how they
Right. Yeah.
came to your music. So if somebody's like doesn't, sometimes people walk up and they get nervous, they don't have anything to say, and they're like, hi, and you're like, hi. So that's my thing. It's like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. How'd you hear about our music?
Oh, that's a good, yeah.
And then because it's never like, we're not like a radio band, so it's not like it's not like you know, Justin Timberlake, where people are like, well, I heard you on the radio and Saturday Night Live and all these super obvious places.
Can't escape it.
Yeah.
Who's the I guess, have you done a lot of collaborations? Who's someone you really like working with?
Well, the most sort of collaborative thing I've ever done was last year. I released this EP with Johnny Swim and Penny and Sparrow.
That's really
so
good.
Thanks. Yeah, so we wrote and recorded 3 songs, then did a Tom Petty cover. And I mean, that was like, it wasn't just like, hey, come sing on my record. It was like we wrote the songs together, we recorded them together, we put a show together.
Yeah.
It was like an equal show. So that was like really, really collaborative. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. The payoff was really, really good. It was probably one of my favorite tours I've ever been on.
That's cool.
There's some collaborators on the new record. I co-wrote a song with Zach Williams from a band called the Lone Bellow. Natalie Hemby co-wrote a song. She's like won a bunch of Grammys, and Lori McKenna, same thing. So there's some collaboration on the new record, which is sort of unusual for me. I typically don't do that, but this time around, I want to change it up a little bit.
Said why not? So you're kind of an entrepreneur as well, right? You got the Moon River Festival, right? And then you have, is it Magnolia?
The Magnolia Record Club.
Yeah. So what are, I mean, the Moon River Festival, my cousins went to it last year actually, and they said it's awesome.
Next level.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's you know, I always tell young dreamers and entrepreneurs, like, careful what you dream of, because sometimes your dreams can become like a lot to manage.
Yeah.
If they start to come true. And that's what's happened with the festival. We did it for 3 years in Memphis, which was really fun. Then it got like to be more than we could handle, because the logistics and the financial exposure, you know, that come along with having a music festival were sort of too much. So we started talking to other festival people and wanted to see if we get somebody else involved. And AC Entertainment, who started Bonnaroo, they are a lot of really good friends of ours, and they do a lot of our shows in the Southeast. They're a promoter, and so we talked to them about it, and they decided to buy the festival from us. We're still involved, but they took over all of the hard things and let me only be involved in the fun things.
Getting on stage.
Getting on stage and helping pick the lineup, which is really sweet that they let me still be involved in that. But moving it to Chattanooga was great, because there's this perfect space downtown Chattanooga that just really like screamed, I need to have a music festival on this property. It's an old, you know, public park, but it's been awesome, and it sold out in a day the first year in Chattanooga, and then it sold out again in about 25 hours, so almost a day. Second time, basically a day.
What's the lineup this year? Who's
the headliners are Jason Isbell in the 400 unit, which is his band, and then Brandy Carlisle who is fresh off of winning a bunch of Grammys and
Yeah.
performing at the Grammys. And we've got St. Paul and the Broken Bones, the Wood Brothers, Johnny Swim, Moon Taxi, tons of people.
The band
Yeah.
Camino too, right?
Ben Camino's playing.
Yeah,
Those
I'm
guys-
excited for that. Yeah.
Our good buddy, the guy that I live with, is obsessed with.
Yeah, there's some
Band
Memphis,
Camino,
Memphis guys in that band.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is I met them at some sort of music business gathering, and they were there, and they're like, "Oh, we're from Memphis too." I was like, love meeting fellow.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up
Hometowners.
at in Memphis? My fiance grew up there.
Yeah, well, so born kind of in the High Point Terrace area.
Okay.
And then spent most of my like school years just outside of the Loop,
Okay.
the 240 Loop, right there at
Gotcha.
Poplar and Kirby.
I don't know the area super well, but
Yeah.
she grew up around like
Remember
Germantown.
that like random tall skyscraper
Okay,
in
yeah.
the eastern part of the city?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, eastern part of the city, like a mile from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Dang.
Circling back to when you were talking about you talking to young creatives and stuff like that, your TED Talk was awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
How did that come about?
Well, I have a friend named Stephen Kellogg. He's another artist, and he went on tour opening for us. I don't know, sometime, 2017 maybe. And he had done a TED Talk and just talked about what a satisfying experience it was, and also what a challenge it was. I think for me, it's always trying to push yourself into new things, and I always thought that because of like doing this independently for years, and that I've got a lot of stories to tell and perspective to offer for those who want to hear it. So I sort of mentioned that to my manager, and he talked to the TED folks, and they had a thing coming up in my hometown of Memphis. So I decided to jump on and went and did a TED Talk, and it was really, really hard. I didn't know. I didn't read enough of the directions, and I didn't realize until the day before that I had to have it completely memorized.
Oh, dang. So there's no
Wow.
screens?
There's no
like,
screen,
screens or
there's
anything?
no prompt.
I have no
You have to
idea.
have it memorized.
It brings a whole level of stress to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, looking at people that do it, you can kind of tell, they obviously have
Yeah, you have to
memorized. It's a
internalize
different
it.
kind of,
I mean, on stage, I'm kind of like freewheeling all
right.
the time, and if I've done a commencement speech, and you've got a podium, so you can have your notes. And,
Yeah.
Right.
So I wrote this, what I thought was a pretty good talk, and then but I had my notes, and like, hey, you can't have any notes because they do like a run through the night before.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I need notes tonight, but I will memorize it when I get home. And so I was up till like 3 a.m. memorizing it. So
dang.
yeah,
You got it done.
I got it done.
Was there like because obviously you're on stage all the time playing shows. Was there just like a different level of stress to that?
Yeah, for sure. Just because of the memory thing. Like if I had not had to memorize it, I think it would have been very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, okay, what's the next sentence of this talk?
Like, what's the next point?
Look pensive. Trying to remember what the line is.
Yeah.
In school, were you always good at like memorizing stuff, or was this
No.
like uncharted?
Yeah, and I'm not good at memorizing my songs either. I mean, my band laughs because pretty much at least once a night I'll flub a lyric.
It's just somewhere.
Yeah, and my songs are sort of wordy, and I also like when I first started making music, my mom made me make one promise to her. It was sort of her permission piece. Well, not that I needed it, but she was like, "Just promise me I'll always be able to understand the lyrics." Which is a really funny thing to ask, but you
Yeah.
think about a lot of music. You're like, "What the heck did that person just say?"
Yeah.
I don't know
That's true. You
what
can't
the lyric
understand
was.
half of it. Yeah.
And so when I forget them on stage, it's pretty obvious because I'm like just making up phrases.
Yeah.
People are like,
Yeah.
I can understand everything else you said, but
I don't know what that
I
was.
think you forgot the lyrics.
Can you tell? Like when you're playing, you look at the crowd and they're like,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, we're working on like a cheat sheet system for this
Yeah.
tour because there's so many new songs, and
Right.
try to decrease my stress level a little bit.
That'd be good.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's the Magnolia Record Club? What is that?
So it's like a record club, like a book club would act. But
Okay.
But it's records. So I pick a record every month, and people that are subscribers, we send it to them in the mail with a letter of why I like it.
Yeah.
Kind of took off like we thought it was this little side hustle, you
Yeah.
know. And it's taken off and become its own thing. We've got a couple employees, and
That's awesome.
we've created other things like a discovery record now, like so people can kind of add on. So now we do more popular records.
Okay.
We don't do a lot of like stuff people haven't heard of as the main record, but we'll do like a discovery thing, and people can sort of add it on and listen if they like it. Yeah, it's been a cool deal. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
Got to feature a lot of my friends, and then work with artists that I admire that I didn't know before.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fun.
You just did a camp, right? Wasn't camp included in one of the most recent? No, was I wrong with that?
A camp on the
The Discover, maybe?
Oh, camp, the band.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like,
Oh,
I
my
don't know what
bad.
you're talking about. Yeah,
Camp, I wasn't
yes.
camping.
Yes, I was like, I don't know about a record club
Yeah, my
camping
bad.
trip. Yes, the band camp. Yes. Yeah, we featured them as the Discovery last month or
Cool.
the month before. Yeah.
They're from
And
Ohio.
they played
Yeah, they're
Moon
good.
River last summer.
Okay, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. It's always interesting hearing people come out of Ohio.
Yeah, where are they from in Ohio?
Athens, it's pretty
Wait,
north.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because whenever I hear somebody from Ohio, I'm like, wow, we really made it, guys.
Yeah.
World against us, but we made it.
You know a band called Red, Winning, Blue?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those are good friends of mine. Those guys I think they're from like the Columbus area.
Okay,
They're
yeah.
really good.
Cool. There's a couple guys. Edward, Edward and Jane? Have you ever heard of them?
Edward and Jane, I don't think I have. I'll check
I
it
think
out.
they grew up in Cincinnati, and then they moved to Nashville now, so they live
Gotcha.
in Nashville somewhere. But they're good.
Cool.
Really good small band.
Yeah, I'll check them out.
Yeah. But how do you, going on tour and whatnot, and you're always traveling and stuff, or when you're not, how do you prioritize the music life versus the family life?
Yeah, well,
how does that go? Is it stressful? I'm sure it is.
it is stressful and it's changed a lot. I mean, it used to not, before I had kids,
Yeah.
you didn't have to think about prioritizing kids if you don't have any. But yeah, it's certainly family first to a point. I mean, you have to go make a living,
Yeah.
but sort of we found that sort of including our family in that has made it more of they understand it better because it's not a foreign idea
They
to
can
them.
see
It's,
it, yeah.
So that's obviously a big part of it. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day. I think the thing that's made my life work the best, just from a professional level, is surrounding myself with really competent and humble people,
Mm-hmm.
which is people who are like I hope to be, willing to sort of take direction, admit when you're wrong, ask for help when you don't know something, and then be really ambitious and aggressive doing something when you know what you're doing, very confident and competent. And so I've got a great manager, I've got a great assistant manager, I've got a great publicist, I've got a really great band, I've got a great tour manager and sound guy. And so my life is less complicated because I delegate things to those folks, and I trust them to get the job done. And if they don't get the job done, I expect that they'll ask me,
Yeah.
tell me about it, and we'll find a way forward. So that's the way the priorities of my life work, is kind of finding the right people to do things that I'm not able to do or I need to pass the torch on. I mean, every job I just named, with the exception of like the band, I've played those roles as an independent
Right.
artist. Managed
up.
myself, booked myself. We didn't have a sound man for most of those years, so I know what all those things are like, and I know that it's better to have someone else doing them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can focus on the making music part.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, even the same with the record club, and that
Yeah.
conversation about getting AC involved in the festival was about like, hey, this is like we've reached a level where I'm no longer competent in
Yeah.
this.
That's a good point.
Speaking of the making music aspect, when you're writing songs and lyrics, do you find yourself, is it more of like you'll be walking and then it just comes to you, or do you have to make yourself sit down and write it?
That's something that's changed over time too. I mean, it's a little bit of both. You kind of always have your ear tuned to the universe, picking up phrases or melodic ideas or rhythmic ideas that you want to hold on to. And so I have like a long list of voice memos from years and years of just trying to pay attention to the world around me. But then taking those pieces, it's almost like you're sort of like hunting for treasure. But then you got to go put it all together. And so that's the work part of going and carving out time, putting it on the calendar, setting up a co-write, or getting with the band and kind of just playing through new stuff and getting inspired that way, and doing the hard work of putting all those pieces together. So there was more of the sort of inspiration part of that before I had a family, and now I have to carve out more time to sort of go find the inspiration. So it's both end, but I think most people have a harder time with the second part of like just scheduling the time to force yourself to be creative. And if that's not a fruitful time for you as a creative person, then you're probably not as creative as you think you are.
Yeah.
You know, or if you like don't look forward to that time.
Yeah.
You know, that's the dream is to be able to like have a work day, quote unquote,
and do
where
what you
you're
enjoy.
like playing the guitar and singing songs. Like that's pretty great.
So what's the hardest part of that? Like figuring out those verses and the melodic tones, or putting it all together?
It's a good question. I don't think hard is the right word. I think challenging. Hard sounds like it's like work, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can feel like work, but for me, typically, the inspiration piece is like the mining is the good stuff. Like that's the fun part. The fun part that's not fun is like traveling, you know, and getting up or doing budgets or like realizing that your record is over budget or your marketing budget is out of money, or you know, like that's the work. I mean, if the writing songs, recording songs, being in the studio, that's the dream, you know. So I don't necessarily find it hard. I do find it's challenging. It requires exercising sort of mental, psychological, and physical muscles that you don't always have finely tuned, but that's sort of the point, you know.
Yeah. What's go ahead, you got something?
Oh yeah, something that I really like about your music, which I feel like you don't really find much today, is that a lot of artists I feel like are afraid to make themselves like almost put their their emotions out there.
Yeah.
Like kind of a certain vulnerability to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I really loved about your last song. Is I was like,
Yeah.
this is a story you're telling about your life that a lot of artists who sing about, I couldn't even tell you,
Right.
would not be able to do. Do you ever like struggle with that, or you ever just you write it and you're like, oh, I don't know?
No, for sure. I mean, I think I've sort of always had like a little bit of a radical transparency as a person, as a friend, and so that's sort of spilled over into my creative work. As I've gotten older, I've gotten better at it because I'm less concerned about what strangers think about me, and I'm more confident in what my family and friends think about me. So I'm not necessarily trying to please any of those groups, because I know that this group of people who I've been doing life with since I was a kid or for a long time, or my bandmates, I know they love me and respect me, and vice versa. So I'm not trying to earn that with my creativity anymore. And then with strangers, I've gotten to a place in my life where it's just like it's exhausting to care that much what strangers think about you.
Yep.
And so you just have to be true to yourself and make your best work. And I've found that every time I've written a song where I tried to be too veiled or not be vulnerable, people don't usually relate to those songs as much, and they have not been as successful for me. And the songs where I've been very vulnerable and, sort of damn the torpedoes a little bit, those are the ones that people respond to. And so, especially on this new record, I just sort of accelerated all the way into that. And that song, probably more than any other, would be the best example of that.
Did you have to? Was this something that you've thought about doing for a while and didn't want to till recently, or not even didn't want to, but just didn't feel like was the right time?
You're talking about the record or that particular song?
That particular song.
Yeah. So there's something about losing someone close to you when you try to do something creative to honor them. It always feels insufficient.
Mm-hmm.
At least it has for me. Whether you're a painter or an author or, whatever it is you do to sort of like deal with the grief, make sense of the loss. I always felt like the songs never really captured what it was really like to be me inside of this inside of the grief and the loss. So what I did on this song that was different was instead of trying to sort of write something that sort of encompassed the entire spectrum of that experience, I picked out a particular moment, which was the party after the funeral, and sort of dove into that as one moment to think about and discuss and sing and sort of allow myself to go there. And so I did that, and it kind of did it through the prism of this sort of daydream that happened to me, and it takes me back there. And so I think that time travel kind of piece is what it actually feels like, and I was able to just narrow in on that one moment and try to name it. And for whatever reason, it really connected. And it's sort of a side funny story about it. My manager, who's, like I said, we've been working together for years, he sent me an email the next morning, not knowing I'd written this song. He basically said, like, hey, it's none of my business, but I think you should try to write a song about your brother. It's been a long time. You should give it a shot.
That's
you
crazy.
can totally, he's like, you can totally tell me to go, screw off. And so I just wrote back, screw off, ... I wrote one last night. And
That's
sent it to
perfect.
him. It was just kind of, serendipitous.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
So let's talk about the new album, Dragons. Just it sounds like it's a lot different from what you've done in the past.
Yeah.
In a good way. You said that you kind of took a lot of, you collaborated a lot, and then you took a lot of different aspects and put them into the songs that you wrote. So
Yeah.
just tell us a little about the album and what it means for you.
Yeah, I wrote more songs for this record than I've ever written before. I collaborated more than I've ever collaborated before. And finally, and probably most importantly, I allowed the producer and the band to sort of push us sonically in new spaces that we've never been to. We used to have sort of a purist mentality about recording
Yeah, yeah.
and track it live, and that is what it is. The few bells and whistles. This time we're like, no, we don't have to do that at all. We can build
Right.
something in the studio. We don't have
whatever
to.
we want.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And we did. And some songs were still pretty like live. Like Dragons is, but I never forget the way you make me feel. A couple of these songs are like still pretty just like a band and me singing.
Yeah.
But there's others like Into the World or Bittersweet that sound much more modern and much more sort of layered and put together.
Yeah.
We just allowed ourselves to use the studio as a tool and let Case and the producer sort of have his way with the project, because I knew that he was the right guy for the job. We actually wrote Bittersweet together just for fun, not as a part of the record. And it was so good, and I love the way that it came out, that I was like, I think I should work with you on this record.
That's
so
awesome.
pretty
Yeah.
organic how that all happened.
Yeah, that's cool. We got a chance to listen to most of the album before
Yeah.
before we came on here, and it is a lot different than
Yeah.
especially like End of the World and Bittersweet. Like you said, there's a lot more bells and whistles. And it sounds great.
Thank
it
you.
sounds
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah,
We're
we loved it
really
all the way
excited
here.
for
We
it.
listened.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
yes, the little
Yeah.
road trip record.
Yeah.
I'm always like, even if my records make sort of changes and change lanes, I still want them to be like road trip records, because those are always my favorite records.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely one you can. There's a lot of records. I feel like there's only a couple songs, that are like, yeah, I'll listen to that all the time.
Right.
But this one, I feel like there's more than two at least. There's almost all of them that I'll listen to.
Yeah.
Just on repeat, and it's definitely, we had 4 hours to listen to it and
Yeah.
listen to all of it, so it was great.
Cool.
Do you have a go-to road trip record?
Yeah, Tom Petty, Wildflowers.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, wow, I was
Or-
ready.
Nice.
Yeah, U2, Octoon Baby. Yeah, those are probably my two top choices.
Was that some music you grew up with? Tom Petty and U2?
Yeah, I mean, that Wildflowers came out when I was in middle school, and so yeah, it was just a record I always loved. And Ellie and I had it on our honeymoon in a CD back when people mostly listened on CDs, or it's like, I think, but when we got married, it was like iPads. I mean, iPods were around, but you had to still have the tape adapter to
Yeah.
go into the
Right.
into the rental car or the car you had it, whatever. So, yeah, those were. But then the Octoon Baby is a cool story. I had this old 1970 Jeep that I bought when I was 16, and I bought the Octoon Baby tape and I put it in the tape player and it got stuck.
Rest
But
in
it
peace.
worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Oh, so
I
you
just
just
let it
couldn't
run.
get it out.
And it was one of those automatic,
Yeah.
tapes that as soon as one side was done, it would just start playing the other side. And so that was my to and from school music for like a year before I got it fixed.
It's a good
Yeah.
way to like an album.
So I know it very well.
Yeah,
I'm
better
sure.
than almost everybody probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Dang. So I was reading a little bit about the album, and there's a piece about dragons in there. The song.
Yeah.
Is it about your grandpa?
That's right.
Is that right? And it's kind of like a dream.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's the way you wrote it.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was pretty cool the way that she wrote it, and then I listened to it, and the description fit the song very well. So
Yeah.
it was cool.
Thanks. It's that's that one I wrote with Zach Williams from Lone Bellow, and yeah, it's a dream. It's basically like I'm camping, and I had this ghost encounter with my grandfather, who in real life was a very awesome sort of figure in my life, and so, but it's one of those sort of big anthemic choruses. It's like all these sort of like take a few chances, kind of is the sort of the theme of it. Go slay all the dragons that stand in your way. It's kind of what I think his advice would be to me at any point in my life, whether I was a kid when he was still around or now. There's one really funny story about him. When I was 15, around Christmas time, he picked me up to take me to my girlfriend's house, and I had 4 or 5 Christmas presents for her.
Nice.
And I was really, really rolling at the time. And so he picks me up a couple hours later, like I said, I'm 15, so 10 o'clock or whatever. And he said, you give her all those, we were pulling out of her driveway, and he goes, you give her all those presents? And I said, I sure did. And he said, did you get you any kisses? And I said, I did not. And he slammed on the brakes. He goes, get back in there and get those presents.
You need something in return for them. Yeah.
He was kidding, obviously.
Yeah.
Then he just pulled out of the driveway just laughing at himself.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Just a big, fun personality.
Yeah.
Sounds like, where did the whole, the idea of dragons come from?
Well, I had that line that I've been saving, go slay all the dragons that stand in your way. I can't remember who it was. Somebody I've met in music used to say that to me about touring, like, have a good tour, go slay all the dragons. And I thought that was such a great,
Yeah, that's cool.
Get you amped up.
go slay all the dragons. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing up on stage,
Yeah.
for people, hopefully. It's helping them slay a dragon that night. I mean, you never know. That's what I love about touring versus just recording, is that you get this room full of people. You don't know what their day was like. You don't know what their life's like. You don't know anything about them for the most part, and yet something about your music connects with them enough to come see a show, and you've got this opportunity and this responsibility to make them feel what they need, what they paid money to feel, without becoming it's not a transaction, it's a community, but you're still your job as the sort of preacher of the night,
Lead the way.
whatever it is, to lead the way. And so you got these, fun songs, big songs, sad songs, love songs, and you're kind of running this emotional gamut. And so I think that's my favorite part of the job, is trying to, help people slay whatever dragon they're going to go out and fight the next day.
Is that what you say that's what you enjoy most about music, is that touring aspect? That
I enjoy being on stage playing the most. I don't love
Yeah.
the practical parts of touring.
Right.
You
You like
showering
being up there
and sleeping and,
Right. In a bus.
yeah, in a bus or in hotels or 6 o'clock flights, whatever. But I do love the stage part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is
That's awesome.
His music, you would want something for your kids, or would you just be like, stay away? Because I know that,
I
in
won't
every
tell them to
industry-
stay away, but I certainly won't push them that way. I think it's a particular sort of calling, and I don't mean that in some big cosmic sense, but you have to feel like, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard, and the sort of math part of my brain, the ROI on it, of income to time spent, is horrible.
Yeah.
You do it because you love it and because you feel like you have to do it. And that's not something you push on a kid. That's something that but anything my kids want to do, I'm going to have some encouragement and then some resistance. Tell me why you want to do that. Do you know that this is hard? Like my dad, the same thing. He's like, go for it, but don't forget, this is one of the cruelest industries in the world. And if it doesn't happen, it's not because you weren't good enough. It might be because you weren't good enough, but it could also be a lot of other factors. Bad timing, bad luck. It's something creative. You can't force people to connect with it and to consume it and to buy a ticket to come see it. It's an organic sort of mystery.
You think were your parents really, really supportive the whole
They were
way
very
growing
supportive.
up?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't decide to do it until, like I said, until I was a junior in college. So
Okay, yeah.
they were surprised
Yeah.
that I wanted to do it, but they were supportive. My mom never been one to like go to bars. She's a teetotaler, and she laughed. She's like, I've been to more, after like a year and a half, she's like, I've been to more bars in the last year and a half than the rest of my life combined. And I'm like, well, Mom, all you had to do is go once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
See me once, that's it.
That's true. No, I'm just saying, even one time would have been more
Yeah,
bars than
okay,
she's
yeah.
been to before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you know, all my friends are sitting around drinking beer, singing along, and she's in the back
Your
drinking,
mom's the crowd.
drinking an iced tea.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but she's supportive. My dad used to like sling merch for me.
That's awesome.
You know, he loves it. I mean,
Cool.
my dad loves music and always has. My mom plays the piano, and so there's some like, they're not like, my dad's not a musician, not a singer, but they love music.
Yeah.
And so it was a big part of my childhood.
Kinda
So
grown
it
up,
wasn't
yeah.
like a total left field thing. I mean, they bought me my first guitar, took me to concerts.
When did you first learn guitar?
I got my first guitar in the 6th grade, but I didn't start really playing until the 9th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang. I wish I played piano.
Yeah.
And I started out in like, I don't know, 2nd grade playing piano. I was good at it. And then I was like, oh, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm good. And then I played trumpet or whatever. And I really wish I would have kept with it. And I keep
Kept
telling
with it,
myself
yeah.
someday I'm going to pick piano back up. But
Well, I started piano
We'll
too when I
see.
was really young, and I quit.
Uh-huh.
Probably 3rd grade I started and did
Okay.
it for about a year and a half. And that's like, not picking it back up is one of my great regrets.
Yeah.
You know, because
So you haven't.
piano is
Yeah.
such a more versatile instrument than the guitar, and I can't do anything on the piano. I
Yeah.
guess it's not too late, but I do have, like I said, 3 kids and
Sure.
Yeah.
3 different
Limited amount
businesses
of
to
time.
run.
Yeah. Takes a little bit.
Yeah.
What's if you could learn one instrument, what would it be?
The drums.
Drums?
Yeah. I hear everything on drums,
Mm-hmm.
and I can communicate it really well to the drummer what I want, but I can't execute it. It's kind of like being like a great quarterback coach and not being able to throw the ball,
Yeah.
which is probably a
I know
thing.
where I want it to go, but I can't get it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know exactly. I know how high I want you to throw it,
Uh-huh.
and like at the
How
time.
fast.
So in the same way with drums, I'm like, okay, I want it to feel like this pattern of like kick, kick, snare, kick, snare,
Yeah.
kick, kick, snare. You know, and I can tell them the feel. I'm like, oh, you're hitting it too hard. Like I need it a little softer. This is what I want it to sound like, but I can't execute it. So I'd love to do that. I tell my band I have like Don Henley dreams,
There we go.
you know, or
That'd be gnarly.
yeah, Levon Helm, you know, where I'm back behind the drums, still singing lead.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
back there on the
That'd be
kit.
cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, is it Dirty Laundry? Is that a Don Henley song? Or is
Yeah, it's a Don Henley song. So Heart of the Matter,
Okay.
Boys of Summer was his
Yeah,
probably
Boys-
biggest
yeah.
song. But he's the main guy in the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he played drums on all those early Eagles records.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it was him and Glenn Fry were the Eagles. You
Gotcha.
know, plus a rotating cast of others.
I always have an extreme respect for drummers who can sing at the same time.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
growing up, I
Right.
played like a couple instruments,
Yeah.
and then as I was playing drums, I was like, how?
So
Right.
you play drums, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you get words to come out?
Yeah, I was
while
like,
you're
I
doing
cannot
it?
believe that, because I'm just like, at least when I play, my mind's like scattered. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh gosh.
That's awesome.
It's impossible. All right, guys. Well, we really appreciate Drew you coming on.
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you
Thanks
very
for
much.
having me.
And hope everyone listening really enjoyed. Don't forget, we've got Dragons, the new record by Drew Holcomb, coming out August.
August 16th.
August 16th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a few of the songs are already out. So Dragons is
Okay.
out and Into the World.
End of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, tour. When does tour start?
Tour starts right after Labor Day. So
Okay. Kicking right off.
yeah, we'll be sort of all coast to coast, north, south, everywhere in between.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah, we're really excited for the stuff coming up, and thanks for tuning in to Bull and Bear, guys.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.